What are the biggest money mistakes you see people making?
The first mistake is actually believing that your business is your wealth. I believe that a personal brand, if we're not careful, becomes a personal burden. You have productive debt and you have destructive debt. Destructive debt is for consumables, but there is productive debt. It is debt that if you don't enjoy the path to financial freedom, you will not enjoy the destination of it. In an ever-changing environment, whether it's technology, AI, or if I want to get paid more, skill up. 10,000 millionaires. 79% of them were first-generation millionaires. This idea of leverage is something I talk in the book. It's called the 5 incomes. It starts at the active level, but the money machine is the top 3.
Many content creators and business owners are making broke money mistakes. And today on the Think Media podcast, we're going to be talking about how to earn more, stress less, and reach financial freedom faster. My guest today is Mel H, who's a best-selling author, CPA, entrepreneur. He's built and sold multiple different businesses. He advises all kinds of top experts, and he has worked with and spoke on the same stages of people like Brendon Burchard, Ed Mylett, Amy Porterfield, Tony Robbins, Chalene Johnson. And in his new book, Building Your Money Machine, he really talks about how to get your money working harder for you. And this applies if you are working your day job right now, building a side hustle, and you want better money wisdom, whether you're having some success with your small business, with your personal brand, with your online business, and you want to be more intelligent. I think that this is going to be packed with all kinds of powerful insights that you can apply immediately. So Mel, welcome to the show.
Oh, Sean, man, it's so good to be here and get a chance to share some time with you, my friend.
Yes, I am glad we've known each other for a couple years and love the impact and the work you're doing. But let's just dive straight in with my starting question. What are some of just the biggest mistakes, specifically when you work with personal brands, entrepreneurs, business owners, other creators, people that are creating content like yourself, podcasters, speaking on stages, maybe just in your circle, in your network with those types of individuals, what are the biggest money mistakes you see people making?
Yeah, I think the biggest and the first mistake is actually believing that your business is your wealth. That the work that we do is enough. And here's the thing. I believe that a personal brand, if we're not careful, becomes a personal burden. And this happened with me. The fact is that if you're not on the treadmill running the stuff, then you have no income coming in, which means that you have no freedom. You're tied to it. And then you hear other people will say, well, you need multiple streams of income. So what do you mean? Multiple treadmills? Now I got to run on more than one treadmill? The challenge is this. Our business historically was never really meant to give us freedom. It wasn't really meant to build wealth. It was to be our wealth. What it was meant to do was to have an impact, to create a service, a product that served a need, to generate cash flow. That's it. And so the key then is, what do we do with, and I call that the earnings journey, whether you're in a job or whether you're in a business, we all were told, make money, get a good career, a professional path, a good business. But otherwise, you got to make money. But then there's this second journey that I call the money journey. And that money journey is what we do with the cash flow. It is where we find our freedom. It is where we find the things that actually matter to us to have a life of choice. It's where we optimize time and we optimize assets so we can optimize and create the legacy and live the legacy, not leave the legacy that we want. And so most business owners or most individuals have to think along those parallel tracks, but we don't. And I made that mistake and learned and figured out, oh, wait a second, unless I can disconnect my earnings from the efforts to earn it, I will always be held ransom by the treadmill of earnings.
Such a powerful insight. I am absolutely guilty of that. I think that I have lived under the delusion that if I work harder and just keep pedaling faster, or I've gotten many plates spinning. And, at Think Media here, one of the things we love about YouTube is there's a level of passive income and an asset you can create in what we would call a ranked video. I've got videos that are 10 years old that are still getting views, traffic, generating leads, affiliate income. And so there's some leverage to that. But, the side that I've been missing out on is really what you talk about in Building Your Money Machine, the book, is not just thinking about the cash flow side, but starting to put your money to work for you through investing. And I'm excited to explore all those. But I do want to hear a little bit about your story, because you sort of had a wake up call. And if you hadn't had a money machine, it could have been devastating. What happened with your life with health that kind of was a big aha moment in regards to this?
Yeah. So in 2019, now, well, let's go back for a moment. How did I even come across this? Back a lot of years, when my son was 5.5, I became a single full-time dad. And I literally was doing what I thought I was supposed to do, earn, until he drew a picture of me. And he came home from school and says, "Daddy, I drew a picture of you to school today." And I kneel down, and it's a picture of me in front of 2 computer screens and a phone in each ear and one on the desk ring. And so, like, at the hands of a 6-year-old, I got a mirror into my soul. And the most important job I had, I was messing up. And that was the aha that triggered this concept of the money machine. So at the hands of a 6-year-old, I kind of started to figure this out and say, how do I do this? But in 2019, everything was great. Life was good. I'm flying around. I'm speaking. I'm doing the things that I want to do. I live on the beach, and amazing wife. And then I hear a doctor who, I was in the doctor's office, and they look at me and they said, "We found a 5-centimeter tumor in your bladder, and you have cancer." And like, in a moment, I'm not a smoker. I'm not a drinker. I'm not a candidate. Not that anyone should be a candidate for it. But my life got turned upside down. And he looked at me and says, "Here's the thing. It's on top of the prostate, which means that we might have to take the prostate out. I can't see the urine on the right side. We might have to put a tube and a bag in for the kidney. And if it's bad, you could lose your bladder." So, I mean, like everything. And he says, and it's cancer. So life's on the line. And so the thing that I knew is that everything changed. In that moment, I had one solitary focus, because people say, "I bet it got you your priorities straight." Yeah, at that moment, there was one priority. It was life. It was living. But here's the thing: is I looked at my son who was there, my wife was there, and I said, "We're shutting everything down. I'm not gonna travel. We'll shut the businesses down, and I'm gonna be 100% all in to beat this demon, to go after it." And the gift was, if the money machine was born out of being a single full-time dad with Jeremy at 6, the importance was given to me by cancer, because what it allowed me to do was to shut things down and allow the machine to generate the cash flow to allow Stephanie and I to continue to live our life, so I could fight the cancer physically, mentally, medically, psychologically, all of it, but I didn't have to fight it financially. That allowed me the ability to have the choice of the doctors, the blessing to be able to say, "I'm going to Eastern medicine, Western medicine, holistic work, anything I could do." And my job became surviving. My job became beating this in every way possible. I don't know if I had to work for a living during the day and fight for my life during the night. I don't know how it would have gone.
That's such a powerful story. And what was the result in regards to the cancer?
For me, well, so the short story is, in fact, as of recording this, in 2 weeks, I go in for another scan, and that will mark almost 4.5 years clear. I mean, I had 3 surgeries, 4 tumors, and 77 treatments. The cancer came back once during that time. And, but I will be, 4.5 years clear.
Wow. And I'm sure people are wondering, we're going to unpack it throughout the episode, but when you say you had the money machine working for you, which 100% of people listening to this either personally are dealing with health challenges or they know someone who is. And I think they can look ahead and imagine a dream, and perhaps this very podcast is a wake-up call to consider, as hard as this can seem, with especially in the economy right now, sometimes inflation and just having enough to cover overhead, and some business owners feeling how tight everything can be, and payroll and other things. but to have more than enough to invest, it was investments that were your money machine. Is that what were the cash flowing vehicles, or rather you're living off interest or dividends, or what were kind of like the big generators for you so that you could make it your full-time job to focus on your health?
Yeah. So that's the key. So you hear the term passive income tossed around, and I don't like that term. I choose not to use it. I use the term leveraged income. And why I say that is that I think that our relationship with money and wealth is just that. It's a relationship. And you've been married for a while, and I've been married for a while. And if we took a passive approach to our relationship with our wives, we wouldn't be married long. And so I never want anyone to think about their money as a set it, forget it. I don't ever have to look at it again. I want you to always be involved and engaged, but there's levels of it. You know, when you're in your job, or you're a solopreneur, or your personal brand, you're intimately involved. The relationship between, remember, the efforts and the earnings, the relationship between the efforts and earnings is much more a one-on-one relationship. So I was looking at it after Jeremy drew the picture, saying, how do I find ways to change that relationship so it's no longer one-on-one? And it's this idea of leverage. It's something I talk in the book. It's called the 5 incomes. And it starts at the active level, which is one-on-one, it's solopreneur, it's personal brand, it's one-on-one effort. Above that, which is, I think media is doing some of this too, is that you have a business, or you have leveraged it because you have team, or you have people helping at the house. You use the money to get some of your time back. But those bottom 2 rungs of the 5 incomes still require a lot of you and a lot of me. And I make money from both of those. But the money machine is the top 3. The next leverage point, the next ability to leverage, is what we call asset-based income. And this is real estate. People will think about real estate, equipment. You know, I've got clients that they rent camera jibs to the studios. They rent transportation equipment to the studios. They buy stuff and they're able to rent it. It's hard assets that you can do. The next level up is residual income. This is things like your YouTube channel, that kind of a thing, a downline. It could be my book, or things that you white label or license. So now it takes less time to generate the income, but it takes time to set it up, get it in place, but then it runs. And then the last, the highest level is portfolio. Stocks, bonds, ETFs, index funds, those kinds of investments. And so what I had was a machine that was built on the top 3. And what I want for people is to start to look at their life and say, how do I create a machine that the cash flow from the top 3, asset, residual, and portfolio, will cover 80% or more of my life? And so now, it doesn't mean you do it in linear. So some people say, oh, I got to get assets first. No. There's a different sequence to it. But I look at those top 3 and say, let's look at your lifestyle. In my case, I don't own directly a lot of real estate because I don't want to be a landlord. Mm-hmm. But I still have some real estate exposure. So I make money from real estate, residual, and portfolio. The lion's share of the income is from the portfolio side and the residual side. So when it came down to shutting things down so I could survive, I literally just said to my wealth team, the money that the machine is generating, instead of reinvesting it, send it to me. And now we're living off of those top 3. And the machine still grew during that time. We weren't shrinking it down. We weren't selling things. But the bottom 2, active in business, were shut down. And then when I started to come back out of it, I said, okay, shut the machine down. Let's get the bottom 2 running again and let it grow. And so it is driven by those top 3. How do I make money from assets, residual, and portfolio?
That was a masterclass right there. The 5 levels of income. And that is encouraging that it doesn't have to be linear, that even YouTube this particular podcast is unique because I do think about like a ranked YouTube video that talks about products, that sends people even Amazon. Amazon Prime Day just happened, and we just earned around $4,500 with some active things we did as well, some live streams, email promotions, and some other things. But a lot of it's from ranked videos that are year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years old. And that stuff would go down over time. 10 years from now, cameras have changed, things have changed. But I do think about that a lot. That's why I love it's interesting that you could kind of like hopscotch ahead to residual in some ways, and even the asset based. I know people could do Turo and they maybe rent out certain cars, and it is sort of a real estate play to have an Airbnb, and you start getting to other things because you own an asset, and then it also you can rent that out, renting equipment. Man, so many powerful insights. Well, I have a lot of more kind of financial questions, but I do want to play a game with you right here, kind of in the middle of the podcast, called Right or Wrong Money Advice. Do you agree or disagree with some of the most popular and maybe controversial opinions of the financial gurus out there in the world? Here's number one. Susie Orman says, don't buy coffee, extreme thrift, frugal lifestyle. The question is, should people deprive themselves of almost all pleasures to achieve financial security?
Absolutely not. I mean, here's the thing. I believe that if you don't enjoy the path to financial freedom, you will not enjoy the destination of it. The mistake that we make is this. Now, wealth creation is less about money and more about behaviors, habits, and decisions. And I know people will go, well, wait a second. Because I tell people, you don't have money problems, you have money symptoms. You have symptoms of the decisions in the past, which means that you have control. So here's what I think we all should be doing. We always start, when we start doing money, in fact, the book starts this way. Define your life. What is it you want? What is it that's meaningful? And if you're in a committed relationship, intimate relationship, you do this together. You create a life together, and you allow that dream to set the plan based on the price tag you came up with. Then it sets the strategy, then it sets the tactics, and then it sets the action. But in the plan, we always look for 2 to 4 joy points of life. My wife and I love to travel. So in the plan, it's embedded in there. It's planned for it. It is something that we strive for. Because if we don't have joy along the journey, we're going to have a problem. Now, what that also does is then allow us to look at the plan and the vision and avoid temptation. When we talk about coffee as one of these things, I think sometimes we look at it and say, we're submitting to momentary pleasures instead of sustainable joys. I want sustainable joys. Now, we can have the momentary pleasures if we have the finances to make it happen. But I want to avoid the momentary pleasures if they're not in the plan and I don't have the margin to allow for it. But that doesn't mean, I just don't think that you'll never live a rich life through deprivation. So if you're sitting back and saying, well, I want to afford this, I can't afford it right now, then let's get a plan in place and behaviors and choices to make it a reality, bring the joy points in your life, and continue the journey.
Incredible. All right. Dave Ramsey says, cut up your credit cards, get out of debt as quick as possible, and avoid debt at all costs. Right or wrong?
Wrong. And here's why. Here's why I think it's wrong. First things first, I don't believe all debt's the devil. But I also know that all debt has 2 personality traits. So you have productive debt and you have destructive debt. Destructive debt is for consumables. It is living beyond your means. It is the luxury stuff that you can't afford. Okay? I agree with Dave on, but there is productive debt. It is debt that is going to allow you to generate additional cash flow or to build net worth. It could be debt that it could be Facebook ads or Google ads that you put on a credit card that you're going to get a multiple back on. That's good debt if managed properly. But the 2 characteristics that all debt has is that all debt costs. Interest is a cost. Good debt, bad debt, productive debt, destructive debt, it still costs. The second is all debt stresses. It stresses us financially, but it also stresses us psychologically. And so we need to manage it properly to make that happen. Now, there's a third thing with this. And why do I say this? I think that debt and debt management is if it's a behavior, it's a different muscle group than wealth creation. One is I'm digging out of a hole and I'm trying to get myself ballast. The other is one of creation and building. And so I want you to exercise both muscle groups at the same time. I want you to sit back and say, now, mathematically, it will take longer to get out of debt by doing this, but at the same time, it's creating the behaviors you need to build wealth sooner. And even if you're putting money away and you say, I have $500 to put away for debt, and I took 490 of it against the debt and $10 towards wealth, we're still exercising the muscle.
Going a little bit deeper, Dave's story was over leveraging. And so you could call it productive debt because he was productively expanding his real estate portfolio to $1, $2, $3 million, and then the notes got called. You've been in the game a long time, and you've seen entrepreneurs who are very driven, aggressive, probably oftentimes thinking they're wise, but maybe really going for it. Do you think that people, even with productive debt, go too far? And have you witnessed people that got over leveraged? Or you're right, Facebook ads, getting a multiple could be a good return, unless of course they don't. And now you had some things wrong with the campaign, and you didn't just do a small test. You maybe played too big, and now you have a big setback. What have you learned about maybe the DNA of an entrepreneur that could justify it with productive, but maybe is too aggressive and steps into being unwise?
So I totally agree with you, and I've seen it over and over again. You can way over leverage, or you can be overly optimistic. So I hear people say, well, entrepreneurs, they're risk takers. I actually don't believe that. They're not risk takers. They're strategic risk mitigators. They're people that look at things and say, what's the probabilities of success? And then the right ones, what I think we should be doing is a couple things. I look at things first and this might be my CPA background, safety first. Let's create a unshakable financial foundation. Safety first, growth second. So if I'm looking at an investment, or I'm looking whether it's a piece of real estate, like, and this is a real example. My son, Jeremy, you know him, they were looking at a property a number of years ago, and he was looking at it from an Airbnb perspective. And I said, great. You want to buy that property. I get it. See if the numbers work out as an Airbnb. Now, assume that city council one day decides no Airbnbs, no short-term rentals. Look at the numbers again from a long-term rental standpoint. Great. Does it work out? If it doesn't, then we have something to discuss. If it does, then the third thing I want you to do is I want you to look at it and say, does it work out from a flip standpoint and a carry standpoint? What I want you to do is so when you get over leveraged, a lot of times what happens is that we do not actually give ourselves margin for error. We don't believe that it's ever going to go down. We don't believe that the negatives will happen. I actually want to do worst case planning. I want to look at it and say, what's the worst case scenario, and can I sustain myself if that happens? And now I'll move into it. And in fact, even with investments, so people say, when you look at investment, I said, actually, what you want to do is know your exit from the investment before you ever do the entrance. So you know how you're going to get out before you ever get in.
I told you, I Think Media Podcast is going to be a valuable episode, and that strategic risk mitigators are really what the best entrepreneurs are. All right, a few more of our game show, right or wrong, agree or disagree with this financial advice. Here's one that you maybe didn't see coming. Bernie Sanders says, because of income inequality, there should be wealth redistribution. Do you think, speaking to the United States here, we need universal basic income?
Trying not to get political? No, I don't. I think that what we need is actually financial literacy education. We should be starting with our youth. Think about this. I've got a kid who joined one of my programs at 16 and a half. At 17, he says, I got a job. What do I do? I said, open a Roth IRA. Literally 45 days, 60 days ago, we're on another call, and he says, I funded my Roth IRA. What do I do? I said, you're 17 still? He says, no, I just turned 18. I said, great. How much did you fund it with? He says, I'm thinking, he's 18. What do you do? $500? He says, I fully funded 2023 and I already funded 2024. I said, hold on a second. You're 18 years old. You're telling me you put 6,500 away for 2023 and 7,000 for 2024. And he said, yeah, I'm living at home. I don't have expenses. All right, cool. And I said, let me do some math for you. At 18 years old, every dollar you put away, if we just put it in an S&P 500 fund, assuming average returns over the time frame, by the time you're 65, it will go up 107 times. So you're already a millionaire. You don't have to do anything other than avoid stupid. And the thing is that we are not, there may be an income inequality that we need to deal with, a wage gap and those things that we need to deal with. And that is also we can talk about the value equation. I think that is there. But from a wealth creation standpoint, we can actually school up, teach our youth the tools that they need, because the more time they have, the less money they need, because it does all the work for them. But I look at our youth and say, if we get a hold of them in high school and we start to teach them delayed gratification, balanced with the joy points, not as susceptible to peer pressure and social media buying and all that stuff, give them the tools, let them see the power, that we won't have financial problems in our country, but we don't talk about it. And I think that's where we need to start, because if all we did, let's say we did this and we say, hey, let's redistribute wealth. Well, we didn't equip them to do anything right with it. So they'll lose it again. It's just like the lottery winner that goes broke again.
That's a big one right there. And I think about my public school education through elementary and middle and high school. You're already a millionaire is the quote that stood out to me. Maxing out your Roth IRA at 16, 17, 18, just playing that out. Massive insight, but I never learned any basics in terms of checking, let alone and money management, let alone investing. And so, okay, a couple more. I do want to encourage listeners, though, that the book is called Building Your Money Machine. And so, as you can see, there's already so much gold in this conversation. And getting your financial literacy and your money education right is huge. And I do think that, one, I know we're hustling, trying to build our side businesses, our creator businesses. So you might be like, I'm just trying to get enough to get it going. But I've noticed that, especially we just studied today, we have 20 billion views generated for our Video Ranking Academy students. Those numbers continue to climb. A lot of people we've helped have gone from struggling to success, and now they're trying to figure out what to do. Like, how do I manage my money well? I want to encourage, you can check out the show notes, grab a copy of the book, because getting your financial education dialed in is one of the most important decisions that any of us could make. And I'm super grateful for everything you've done here. Right or wrong, financial advice. Elon Musk is very bullish on crypto, and even kind of has the sentiment that cryptocurrency is the future of money. Do you agree with that?
This episode is brought to you by StreamYard. StreamYard is our go-to platform here at Think Media for live streaming to Facebook and YouTube, and for recording our video podcast. It has an incredibly easy to use interface for built-in branding, transitions, text lower thirds, and seamlessly bringing on guests. And they just added an awesome new feature called local recording. This allows you to take the quality to another level by separating out your audio and video from your guests, giving you more control over your content for later use. This feature is perfect for video and podcast creators. And so to get a special deal on StreamYard right now and to see all the features that are included, just go to streamwiththink.com. That is streamwiththink.com.
Elon Musk is very bullish on crypto, and even kind of has the sentiment that cryptocurrency is the future of money. Do you agree with that?
No, I don't. Well, the future of money, I don't know yet. So that the jury's still out. Here's my problem with crypto, and I'll get hate for this, but what the heck? Tell me what the utility is beyond the blockchain. Okay, if I invest in Tesla, it's got a business model. It's got income streams. It's got growth. It's got assets. It's got intangible assets. I'm investing in something. What drives the value of crypto, of say Bitcoin? What drives the value of it going up? The only thing that drives the value is someone else buying it and the demand for it. So in order for me to make money on crypto, I need to find someone else that's willing to buy it for more. And so it is the classic definition of a pyramid scheme. And if you look at the volatility of it, it is highly volatile. It is no different than what they're doing with GameStop and running it up. Talk it up, it goes up because of artificial demand, but there isn't a business model behind it to drive cash flow and earnings. And the only way you make money is that you got to sell at the top. And so that's where I start to have the problem with it. Now, if it becomes broadly accepted and everything, we may have ourselves a currency. Now, here's the other challenge with crypto that a lot of people I don't think realize. The way it is seen in the US as an asset, every transaction creates a taxable transaction, which gives a ton of friction to it. So imagine this. You go to Starbucks and they say you can pay with Bitcoin. Now you're going to pay $7 for their, caffeinated, sugar-rated, all that stuff for the big thing with the whipped cream, and you pay $7 in Bitcoin. What that created was you did a $7 transaction at Starbucks, but now you had to convert the Bitcoin. So now you got to look at the $7 worth of Bitcoin. How much did you buy it for? Maybe you bought it for $4. If you bought it for $4, now you have a $3 gain you have to put on your tax return. The friction of using it becomes problematic. And so until those things get solved, I don't spend a lot of time with it.
Gary Vaynerchuk is known for just saying, work harder and hustle. When it comes to right or wrong money advice, is just grinding it out, working 14, 16, 18-hour days the solution? Yes or no?
No, I don't think so. I think that we have to find something, because it's not about, we're not talking about the bank account. In fact, my book starts with life, then money, and then ends with life, because it has to be attached to life. If all life was working 10, 16 hours a day for the rest of our lives, where's the joy in that? Now, doing things we love, and I understand that, but I think that the underlying premise of it is having the right work ethic, the discipline, and the behavior to do the hard things so you can get the things that you deserve. But even then, there's plenty of people that work really hard, make a lot of money, but if they're spending too much, they don't have the skills, they don't build wealth, they have no freedom, and they have no choice in life. They're driven, instead of by choice, they're driven by the daily demands or their expenses that they have to get paid.
Okay, two more. Grant Cardone says, put all of your money, all of your extra money in real estate, and is known for saying, I go broke, the power broke, and I make as much money as I can with my active income, and I put it all in real estate. Do you agree with that?
I love real estate, but I don't love real estate as the first play. And here's why. Because if I accumulate, let's say I accumulate $10,000. Remember, safety first, growth second. If I accumulate $10,000, I might be able to put it in one deal or one property. And I had this happen with a friend where they bought a building, and then they needed to do some remodeling in the building. The contractor comes in, they look at it and they say, "There's asbestos up here. You need to have all the tenants move out, and it's $150,000 to remediate it and fix it. And once we do it, then we can do the other stuff, and then you can get it re-rented." And the problem I see with real estate is that if we do a bad deal at the beginning and we don't have the finances and the liquidity to carry the deal from a bad tenant, a tenant that doesn't pay, an eviction that has to go through, a repair that was unplanned, then we could destroy ourselves financially. So at the beginning, I want to mix, but I want to have the liquidity, and I want to have a diversified portfolio that allows me to carry it. Then when I have critical mass, then we can talk about real estate, because if that happens, I have the ability to carry it. And so that's kind of how I look at it. And the other reason for it is that, let's say I only had $1,000. I can get into the investing game with index funds and ETFs with a couple $100, with $1,000, it's hard to get into real estate at that level. And so I don't want to delay you. I want to get you in the game.
Do you like dividend stocks?
I do. But I don't invest solely for dividend stocks. I invest for overall return. So I make a fair amount of money on dividends and interest, so it's cash flowing. But at the same time, I'm not creating a specific portfolio for it. I want to look at what's the overall return. When I say overall return, that means what's the dividends I get out of it, plus what's the growth in the stock. So I'm going to invest for overall returns, and I know that dividends will come along with it. And in fact, any dividends I usually reinvest anyways right now to continue to build the machine. Okay,
one more and then a few more questions for you, but this has been a fun game show. I'm curious if you watch the podcast on YouTube. Let us know in the comments your thoughts on these different financial perspectives. And if you listen on audio, you can always visit us. You can't comment on audio, so you can always visit us on YouTube. But here's what Peter Schiff says: buy physical gold as a store of value, as a hedge against economic uncertainty. Are you all in on physical gold? You agree with him?
I agree with having it as a piece of the portfolio. I don't hold a ton of gold, but it's a ballast. It's an offset. And unless you actually believe that we're going to hell in a handbasket, then you, just like any asset class, I'm not going to be overly concentrated in one particular asset class because of the risk of it going down. That was I don't remember the name of the brothers. They started to corner the market on silver. And everything. And at one point, and then the silver tanked, and they lost a ton of money. The lack of diversification, if we go all into something, no matter whether it's real estate in a specific arena or area, a specific stock or specific material or precious metal, we take on risk. And I don't want to do that. So I'm going to mitigate the risk. That means that I might leave some money on the table if it goes to the moon, but I will keep some money on the table if it goes to the core of the earth.
The Hunt brothers cornered the silver market from a price of a skyrocket from $2 an ounce to over $50 an ounce. This was back in like 1970s kind of era. Interesting. Would you rather right now, would you rather have $100,000 in gold or $100,000 in Bitcoin right now?
I'd take gold.
Awesome. Okay, a couple more questions as we land the plane. We're talking to Mel, author of Building Your Money Machine, and it's been such a fun conversation. It makes me think about, meeting with Sonia, and we talk about this stuff a lot, and but applying the lessons that we're learning. There's this big idea, right, where people want to become a millionaire. TikTok, everyone's talking about how to become a millionaire. What's interesting, too, is that the word millionaire is not what it once meant in terms of inflation and other things like that. But my question is it true that to be a millionaire, you need to inherit the money or you need to inherit a business?
No, it's not. So there's a study which Dave Ramsey Solutions did, 10,000 millionaires. 79% of them were first generation millionaires. 8 out of 10, pretty daggone good odds. That means that they created it in their lifetime. It wasn't inherited, it wasn't gifted, and it wasn't won. And so it's about, and here's the other stat I think that really makes this study really important. 31% of them never made much more than $100,000 a year. And so it isn't the amount of money they made. It's what they did with the money that mattered. And so when you look at it, I think that you look at it and say, hey, you can do it no matter. Now it may take some time. It depends on how large of an income shovel you have, but it is not impossible. I think where we start to slow down is most of us think that our journey to wealth is a linear one, and it's not. It's an exponential one. Think about, if I want to make $1 million, let's say I'm going to put $10,000 a year away at 8%. Okay. The first $100,000 is always the hardest because you don't have the skills, you don't have the knowledge, you don't have the tools, you don't have the process. There's a lot of learning in that first 100,000. It'll take you 7.6 years to make that first $100,000 based on those numbers. And if you continue on and just did $10,000 a year at 8%, it'll take you 20.6 years to get to 500,000. So now you're at the halfway point. And the challenge is you think, oh, shoot, I got another 20 years before I hit 1 million. And it's not true. Your next 500,000, the other half of the million, takes 7.5 years. It takes you less time to make that last 500,000 than it did to make the first 100,000. And the reason for it is at the beginning, you're in what I call in the book, the wealth flatline. It's that time that you're compressing the spring and get everything ready to launch. And when you cross that tipping point, the subtitle of the book is Getting Your Money to Work Harder for You Than You Did for It. The money momentum that is created will create money for you. And so getting in the game early or as early as possible, and if you're not in the game, now is the right time. Get in the game, get involved, stay in the game long-term, because the only way to eat up that wealth flatline, 4-letter word, time. So get in the game, stay in the game, get past the tipping point, and let it roll.
One of the big things we talk about here at the podcast is a quote you have, skill sets before assets. What is the importance on this wealth journey of acquiring new skills and some insights you have for the prioritization of that?
So there's two levels of the skill sets to assets thing. One is, and this goes back to, in a sense, the Bernie Sanders question. If we live in a value exchange economy, like it or not, we get paid for the value we create. And the way we create value is to have additional skills, solve bigger problems, So if I want to get paid more, skill up. If I want to earn more, skill up. And in a ever-changing environment, whether it's technology, AI, or all that, is to sit back and say, how I got to learn more. I got to grow. And now with technology, it's easy to get access to information and grow. So that's one aspect of the skill sets before assets. The second aspect of the skill sets before assets is in the transition of our wealth. There's another study that was done by Money Magazine that first generation millionaires, but then 70% of the wealth is lost in the second generation. And the reason is we transferred the assets, but never transferred the skill sets. So like my son, for instance, he will not get the money machine from me and my wife unless he proves he has the ability to steward it and carry it forward. And so our job as wealth creators, as individuals or entrepreneurs, is to not only create it, but to equip and educate those that will take it from us so it will continue. Because if we can perpetuate it, we now actually, and the way you do that partly is not to perpetuate just the wealth, but the values around it so it has a positive impact in society. Now, all of a sudden, we're creating something that will transcend our time here, but also continue to impact in a positive way.
So we want to, number one, like Warren Buffett would say, the best investment you can make is in yourself. And because if you learn new skills and you can create more value, then you can create more income, and then you have a bigger shovel to invest and to create opportunities. So learning new skills, we're living in a world where it's changing rapidly. So those front-facing skills. But that level two is the skill of managing money. And I like that it's also the values, the mindsets, the values. It's also not just practical skills. To your point, it's psychology. It's internal strengths like delayed gratification, like you could almost call it self-discipline. You could call it restraint, and you could call it, because 70% of wealth is lost in the second generation. And so then not only ourselves learning those money management skills and financial literacy, but passing that along to our families, our kids. Am I getting it right?
Yeah. So with Jeremy, I actually started him at 10 years old. I gave him a commission, and I said, there's 4 buckets. There's the giving, there's the savings, there's the investing, and there's the living. 4 buckets. The idea behind it was this. In giving, I now have the opportunity to have a conversation around the values of generosity, the values of being a positive impact in the world. around the savings, I have the opportunity to now have conversations around, hey, what happens if your bike tire goes flat? How are you going to fix it? The frugalness and, I wouldn't use the term with a 10-year-old liquidity, but having some money available. On the investing side, now we can teach them about how things grow. And he got a Roth IRA, and then I started matching it and doing those kinds of things. And then on the living side, he learned the lesson that, I got to prioritize things. I can have everything, but I may not have everything now. So what's most important to me, and where do we do this? So now you're using it as a way to open up conversations to a topic that most families say is taboo. I mean, I grew up in a family that it was impolite to talk about money, but I think when we talk about money through the aspect of values, we create an environment that money is no longer a demon, but a tool for a positive impact.
4 buckets. So great. I've got a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old too. So I am absolutely thinking about legacy and thinking about passing along these values. I think I got about 3 more questions for you.
Yeah.
And I know we could go forever, but these are so, thank you so much for all the value that you're adding today. I am curious, for a startup or a small business, and many people now, they're building out content creators, podcasters, video podcasters, course creators, packaging what they know, adding value, or they're in all kinds of different online business opportunities. And of course, core of it is generating traffic and awareness and adding value through a YouTube channel. How should startups, small businesses, and maybe even in a side hustle set aside their budgeting, and maybe mistakes that they don't, if they set aside money for taxes, your opinion on maybe an emergency fund, your opinion on how aggressive they are with investing in the growth of your startup. And when I think about like the Tilt, which is kind of a creator economy company, they talked about how it takes for around $10,000. This was actually the average invested by kind of a professional content creator. A lot of times in the education space, it took them about a year to generate their first dollar, but then eventually they're generating 60, 80, 100K because they bought cameras and they bought these different things. So I guess, and they have a day job while they're transitioning over to wanting to create freedom and work from home. So I would love to hear your thoughts in that early phase of where you would maybe think about money management, percentages to savings, percentages to giving, even if you feel like you need to give to yourself. You could barely bring yourself on payroll, just different thoughts.
Yeah, so I love this question. And I think that here's the thing. We need to allow investing in our future to be a line item in every budget. It needs to be a priority. Most of the time, it's an afterthought. I'll get through it all, and whatever I have left over is what I'll use for the future. But that means I'm building my future on scraps. I don't want to do that. I want to make it a priority. So when I'm working with people and counseling people on they're planning a launch, I said, in the launch, you put a line item for investing. You also put a line item for taxes. So the tax man or woman, however you want to look at it, they don't go away, and they have rights that other bill collectors do not have. And
they can put you in jail.
They can put you in jail, and they can take assets pretty quickly. There's actually an auction site if you want to buy cars, homes, boats that they've repossessed.
What's the website?
It's an IRS. I'll have to get it. I don't know it off the top of my hand. There is an auction site for it because they're coming, and you have to make sure that you put money away. You have a partner in this game. Now, that also begs the question of making sure that you have good advice to maximize the tax deductions in a legal way so you minimize how much that partner takes. But I would put money away, and if you're not disciplined enough, separate the accounts. Have a high yield savings account, have 25 to 30% of your income going into that account automatically put away for taxes. Then you look at it from that perspective. Now, at the startup phase, you're going to need the money in the business, and I get it. Now, when you're transitioning, if you have a job while you're doing the side hustle to get traction under it, then you have an income stream that is taking care of those things. But at the same time, through that income stream, I would look at saying, how do I create a foundation of cash that I put in a high yield savings account in case to cover us if we have a challenge. And I would look at it through those eyes. And when you plan that startup, is to look at it and say, all right, for the first year, I know that I'm getting a salary from a job. I'm not going to take a salary from this, but that cannot last. You have to build it into the equation, and your compensation, your return for your services has to be a priority. Otherwise, you're working for other people. And why are we doing it? And so it needs to be built in. So now you got to scrutinize the expenses, but you also have to look at, am I getting paid my value? And this is especially for personal brands, something I struggled with early on because I was a CPA and it was a timesheet and everything. People say, how do I get paid more? I said, the first thing you have to do is make sure you're owning your worth. Like, am I willing to ask what I'm worth in the sense of the solution I create and everything? Because if I'm not with conviction, then we can't expect someone to pay. And if you're reducing it to a math equation of hours and dollars, you've already started down the road of commoditizing it.
That's powerful. That's a conversation for a whole nother day.
Oh, yeah.
Raising your prices, understanding your worth. Also, I found the website. This might be one of my favorite insights of the conversation. IRSauctions.gov. And if you're listening on audio, here is what we are seeing on screen. There's a Lamborghini Urus that seems to be owned by maybe some kind of a drug dealer or something, or just some playboy. It's all got a custom splattered paint job. And current bid right now, 3 days left, is $175,000. So also a Bentley convertible. And this one's funny because the windows are busted out. Like maybe his girlfriend or somebody got upset, or there was a drug deal that went bad. And so they were busting the windows, and then maybe this poor individual's assets all fell apart. So the IRS reclaimed whatever this is. So anyways,
yep.
Side quest to IRSauctions.gov. There's houses on here, Lamborghinis, Bentleys.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's funny. And it kind of brings me to one final question I have for you. One of the biggest things happening right now with the internet is scams. Yeah. I mean, the other day I was fortunate enough to have this Middle Eastern prince email me, and he wanted to hook me up with a multi-million-dollar inheritance, and all he needed was my social security number and my bank information. So I sent that over to him, and he hasn't sent the money yet, but I think he's trustworthy because he was telling me that this is a good dude and is a king or something that wants to send me a bunch of money for free. But if anyone hasn't had that happen, we're seeing this on YouTube. We're seeing crypto scams in comments. Yeah. We're seeing scam comments all over Instagram. We're seeing different rug pulls happening. A lot of influencers, are launching crypto projects, and it appears that it's kind of like the rug pull being that it's just a short-term thing for them to make some money and some insider information and pump it up and get out. And there's even a story of a Ponzi scheme that you maybe you could tell us that maybe you were part of, and you had to, the money machine helped you recover. But what is maybe that story, and how can people avoid scams and be wise with the financial state of things with the internet and all this new technology?
Yeah. So I made an investment in 2005 that turned out to be a Ponzi scheme, wiped out 1/3 of everything I owned. Okay. Between me and two friends, we lost over $4.5 million. The person, I ended up testifying in the grand jury. He ended up going to jail and all that stuff. But these things are out there. How did I get caught in it? And I'm a financial guy. I'm the guy that they would call to testify against someone, which they did. But when your emotions get involved in your money decisions, your financial intellect goes down. And when this guy, a good con, starts to stroke the aspirations of your dreams, the solution to your pain, the quick ability to solve the problem of that immediate need, then you start to get your emotions involved in it, which I did. I literally started to create a spreadsheet because I'm an accountant, looking at the returns and going, man, I am going to be wealthy beyond. We start to make decisions. I just did an episode on my show that it says your investing shouldn't be fun. If the investing feels like an adrenaline rush, it's a mistake. Okay?
It's good.
Second thing, so what that did is it created a bunch of the rules, the criteria, and the things that I have in the book to make sure that someone else doesn't fall prey to it. And I'm dogmatic about the rules in the sense of, if it doesn't fit these rules and I don't get a chance to do it, then I'm okay. And if I leave money on the table, I'd rather do that. One of the most important things, though, one of the most important rules, you never, ever, ever invest in something you don't understand. And so when it comes to these kinds of scams, if they're good scams, not that there is no such thing as a good scam. If they're a good scammer, let's say, they're good at it. They understand the psychological triggers. They understand the emotional triggers. They understand how to play the game and play on the urgency, the scarcity, the need, the reciprocity, all those triggers, and get you in the game. And you have to have the opportunity and the ability to step back and say, hold on a second. And be willing to recognize that you're feeling the pull emotionally into something. And if there's a voice, a gut feeling, and that what's really driving the decision, which was what drove me, was the desire for it to be true, that's not a time to get investing. And I think I think we're going to see a lot more of it. And what scares me more than anything else is how AI will start to enter into it. Because now there's a potential that there could be an AI bot with the physical of me talking to you as if it's me sending you a video. And that concerns me. And we have to be very diligent. So there has to be a set of rules. There has to be something where you're sitting back saying, I don't do this. Like most of my investments now are much more commercially available. They've been through due diligence. I'm not, hey, I heard from a friend of a friend and let me set you up to have a contact with them and have a conversation. I don't do any of that. And there's probably money I'm leaving on the table because there might be some really good ones out there. But my job first, safety first, growth second.
Safety first, growth second. And it sounds like money mastery is really emotional mastery as well. And this has been such a valuable episode. I do want to have you do a shout out to how people can connect with you, but a few things for our community. Definitely pick up the book, Building Your Money Machine, link in the show notes down below, to get all of these insights and so many different frameworks, even just those rules for how to filter through investments, all great there. And then also check out a few other episodes in our show notes. We do have some episodes about a lot of write-offs and tax advantages that creators and small business owners oftentimes are unaware of. And if you want to take your financial education deeper, we'll put some of the additional past episodes in our archive in the show notes. And then, Mel, we want to send people to what you're doing. What do you think are some of the best? I mean, shout out anything you want to promote, but how can people connect with you and go deeper with you?
Oh my gosh, thank you. The book is huge. Now, if you want to get the book, you can get it at Amazon. In fact, that's probably the best place to get it. But I want you to go to yourmoneymachinebook.com. And here's why. It'll send you to Amazon, but when you come back and put your information in, I want to give you some things like I've created a companion workbook. I created a book club guide to do it. Because here's what I realized. You can buy the book, which is great. It helps me. And it puts a few dollars in Jeff Bezos' pocket. He doesn't need it. You can read the book, which will take up some time and soothe you and give you hope. But if I can get you to live the book, I'll change your life. And so I want to give you tools to make it easier for you to bring it into your life and make it a daily habit, a discipline, and a way of life to do that. So that's one. My Instagram is melabraham9. My YouTube channel, which is growing. It's moving.
Yeah, you've had some bangers lately. Like a couple of videos really pop off. Yeah, it's really cool to see.
Yeah. So my YouTube channel, I'm doing regular content on it. If there's questions that come up, DM me, let me know, because I'll bring it on an episode. We'll answer the questions. I don't sell investments. I don't sell insurance. I just want to sell people on their dreams, the possibility of it.
Well, Mel, thank you so much for coming on the Think Media podcast. Appreciate you, and look forward to next time we can connect in person at Think Media podcast. Like, subscribe, rate, share. And my name is Sean Cannell, your guide to building a profitable YouTube channel, and we will talk soon.